you know, and they're in there.
I like that moment that you told about some doctor was treating you, and in the course of that treatment, you mentioned the night terrors, and he said, "Oh, well, you know Dr. So-and-so downtown,
Yeah,
who's doing
right.
experiments in this,
Yeah.
or in
Yeah.
research."
Oh, it sounds very theatrical the way you say it. Yeah, well, I had the accident during sleepwalking, which is really how most people come into recovery for sleepwalking or sleep terrors. They don't go for help until they hurt themselves or somebody else, and that's still the case. And so I went, you know, I had to go to the doctor. You know, I was bleeding, my face, you know, and I was petrified that I was going to be institutionalized. I thought it was going to be right from there to go right to the psychiatric hospital, bring her right over, you know, because of the schizophrenia in my family. And actually, people with sleep terrors and sleepwalking are often misdiagnosed in many, many ways. So I ended up with this doctor who was my friend's doctor, who was an expert in alcoholism, as well as a cardiologist and an internist. And when I told him what had happened, I just felt like I had to come clean, you know, I had to say what really happened. And he was like, "Oh, you have night terrors." And I was like, "Yeah." And I knew I had them because I'd read about them when I was 15 in Psychology Today. Because that's what I was always searching, you know, and because of being lucky or the signs. A friend's older sister gave me a copy of the 1975 edition, and the cover was Night Attacks, and it was this terrifying picture of a shaved man with shaved head. Half of his face was blacked out, and there was this eyeball was bulging, and the other half was human, and his eye was closed like that. And inside, it was all about different sleep disorders, and at the end of the story, they mentioned night terrors and sleepwalking, and they were like, "You just have to tolerate it," basically, you know. That's what the advice was then. They didn't know what to do. And so I was like, okay, I have to tolerate it. So I'd known all those years what I had, you know, and then this doctor was like I got it. He wasn't going to send me to the psychiatric hospital. And I was telling him about my family. He was like, "Does anybody else have these?" And I said, "Yes." And I was telling him about my mom, and then I was telling him about my dad's insomnia, and that my dad had been addicted to sleeping pills, even though he was a sober alcoholic. He had relapsed. He drank, you know, he had got addicted to sleeping pills because he had such a bad time when my brother was sick. And the doctor looked at me and said, he had a slip. That's a relapse on sleeping pills." And I was like, "Oh, no," defending my father, you know. But there was something in that course of that conversation where I realized, you know, okay, I have to get help. I mean, I can't not get help anymore. And then I went to the library, medical library for consumers, and read. Oh, I went to see one psychiatrist because I couldn't afford to go to the sleep center. And the psychiatrist was a real asshole. And I asked him if I could read anything about them. He said, "No, you wouldn't understand it. It's all medical." Oh. Yeah. So this is before the internet, and I found the medical library for consumers. It was down by NYU, and I went and I researched, and I kept coming up against PTSD, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is what I have." And I put my head down on the table, and I fell asleep, and this beautiful librarian who was transgender woke me up and said, "It's time to be closed." And my mom used to put her head on the library desk to go to sleep, and she was a girl, and she came from so much trauma, you know, and like things came together for me. So that's how it kept being, you know. And I just, I mean, I was really willing to very much to lie to Mark about what had happened to my face when I met him. He was like, you know, he was so gentle though. And I said to him, you know, I did this to myself. Because I knew he thought that I had been abused by somebody, you know.
So it was right after the accident?
Right